Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me after a little bit of time off and a lot of bowling from last weekend, from what I saw, Jason is back. How you doing, dude?
Yes, sir. I'm good. How are you doing, bud?
Well, my right arm probably feels better than yours does after all that bowling.
Probably.
Joe is off tonight. He long weekend with the holidays last week, family coming over. Joe is taking a week off because he's more than earned it at this point in the year. So,
Oh, yeah.
Joe, I think he's going to pop on in comments, throughout the night, but he's going to be taking it easy. And please do, Joe, you've more than earned it. So, Jason, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I went to the store and did the pick six tonight and found a leftover from the 4th of July holiday. So I had to get it for tonight since it's our first one since the 4th of July. It's a Smirnoff Ice Smash, red, white, and berry. It is blue raspberry, cherry, and citrus. So it tastes like one of those old Rocket Pop things.
Yeah, Bomb Pop.
Yeah, the bomb pops. Yeah, they're pretty good.
All right. I decided to make something special tonight. It's the middle of summer. It's hot as hell out. And what's one of the best treats you can have in the summer besides beer? Milkshakes.
Lemonade?
Well, yeah, lemonade.
Oh, milkshake.
Milkshakes. And since the Braves took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, I decided to make myself a boozy Graham Slam milkshake. It works pretty well when you add some vodka to it, let me tell you.
Nice.
I had just a touch too much milk, though. It's a little thinner than I would have liked, but oh yeah, the graham cracker flavoring pops right through. That it makes a surprisingly good milkshake. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with it.
It's a little thinner than you like. Sounds like Ella's on the radio on the broadcast here right now.
You're terrible. And she would agree. All right. The 2024 All-Star Game ballots have been released. 32 first-time players this season. 13 players receiving at least their third consecutive bid, and that's led by Mookie and Freddie. Mookie is making his 8th consecutive bid, although he will not play. Freddie his 6th. You have 24 players that were internationally born, 10 from the Dominican Republic, 6 from Venezuela, 2 from Japan and Puerto Rico, 1 from Canada, Cuba, Curacao, and Mexico. And remember, these numbers can change as players get hurt or decline invitations, blah, blah, blah. Just putting getting the fine print out of the way first, All right, so looking at the AL, your starters: catcher Adley Rutschman, first base Vlad Guerrero Jr., second base Jose Altuve, third base Jose Ramirez, shortstop Gunnar Henderson, outfielder Aaron Judge, who was the top overall vote getter in all of MLB, absolutely rightfully earned the way he's hitting this season. Mm-hmm. Outfielder Stephen Kwan. Where is my third outfielder? It fell off my sheet. Anyway, DH Jordan Alvarez. I am so sorry, Jason. For some reason, my third outfielder fell off the list. I think when I was moving stuff around with copies and paste, I think I accidentally deleted it. So my apologies there. Here it is.
Yeah, no worries.
AL Juan Soto. I was about to say, I knew it was another Yankee. Had to be Juan Soto. Not a surprise, unfortunately. As much as I can't stand Soto, at least he's not doing damage in the NL East this year. I think we can both agree with that.
Absolutely.
Pitching for the American League: Tyler Anderson, Corbin Burns, Emmanuel Clase, Garrett Crochet, Logan Gilbert, Clay Holmes, Tanner Houck, Seth Lugo, Mason Miller, Cole Reagans, Tarek Skubal, Kirby Yates. The reserves: Salvador Perez, Carlos Correa, Rafael Devers, Josh Naylor, Isaac Paredes, Marcus Semien, Bobby Witt Jr., Jarren Duran, Riley Green, Kyle Tucker, who may or may not, and he's probably likely not going to be playing. He's out till after the All-Star break, and then David Fry from Cleveland. He's the backup DH. In the NL, your starters: catcher William Contreras, first base Bryce Harper. Has Harper said what he's going to do yet? I know he's expected to be back this week.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. They are expecting him back at some point this week. It's a matter of, I think, if he feels like playing in it, just coming back from injury. There's potential that he's back tomorrow. I'm thinking probably Wednesday or Thursday. So I truly think it's just, I think he's going to be a day-to-day decision as far as what he's going to do.
Okay. Joe chimed in last week. He had heard that he wanted to play. Of course,
Yeah.
it's going to depend on how he feels.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. Harper absolutely loves this, and this is, I believe, it's the first time he'd get to be in the All-Star game as a Philly, because I think he was hurt. Like, assuming he's not injured, because he was hurt, I believe, his MVP campaign year. I believe that was when he had that, like, the broken hand or something like that.
2022, he was an All-Star.
Right, but my question is if he played.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because I don't believe he did. Because I believe he was hurt at that time. But
give me a second, I'm looking. Yeah, hold on. He would have been an outfielder at that point. Right. You also have to look back at the all the changes. All right, I'm looking at the box.
And if you remember, 2022 was when he had the initial elbow issue that he pretty much DH'd the whole season.
Yeah. No, you're correct. He did not play in 2022. He made the team, but he did not play.
Yeah.
So
I would love to see him finally get to play in the All-Star game as a Philly.
Yeah, that's why I hadn't realized that that this would only be his second time elected since joining the Phillies. And that was back in 2019. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, well, and I'm looking at it too as you lose a season with 2020 essentially.
Yeah.
And 2021, I think we had him listed as a snub.
Yes, I feel like that was pretty unanimous among the three of us. Well, then three of us.
So
it was pretty evident he was going to be very likely to win the MVP and was already showing good form at that point in the year. So.
Right. And I'm also thinking the reason also that I want him to play is he was the top NL vote getter, so he was the one that automatically got the starting bid. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yep. So we'll see. Day to day for now. Second base will be Ketel Marte. Third base, Alec Boehm. Shortstop, Trey Turner. Outfielders, you have Jurickson Profar, Fernando Tatis Jr., although he's out until August, so he will not be playing, and Christian Yelich. DH, Shohei Ohtani. That one ticks me off. Pitching, Tyler Glasnow, Ryan Helsley, Jeff Hoffman, Shota Imanaga, Reynaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, Tanner Scott, Paul Skeens. That one surprised me a little bit. Matt Strom, Ranger Suarez, Robert Suarez, Logan Webb, Zach Wheeler. Wheeler's not going to be in, right?
Correct. He's not going to be in because he does pitch. He is the probable starter for this coming Sunday. And if you start the day before the All-Star break, you don't pitch in the All-Star game.
Automatic, yeah. And Joe, no, it doesn't just tick me off because it hurt Ozuna. Ozuna, during the voting, Ozuna is having a better season. And trust me, I would know. I've got Shohei on my fantasy team. I know how Shohei's been doing, which isn't bad, but Ozuna was having a better season during the voting. Reserves, Will Smith, C.J. Abrams, Pete Alonso, Luis Arias, Mookie Betts, who again won't play. He's out until I think at least August with a broken hand as well. Ellie De La Cruz, Freddie Freeman, Ryan McMahon, Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill, Helio Ramos, Brian Reynolds, and Marcelo Ozuna. So that's the All-Star roster as it stands right now. As I mentioned, there will still be changes. Pitchers are still pitching, so there will be late selection changes Sunday and into Monday. So, we'll see what the final roster ends up being. Let's go down. Jason, some general thoughts on the selections. Any quibbles, guys, you had questions about before we get into the straight snubs?
Since we're not doing straight snubs, there were a couple that I was a little surprised about. I am very, very happy for Paul Skeens. I think he has really come on the scene pretty quickly. And the thing that we need to remember here is all of the reserves were chosen by the players and the coaches. So I think Skeens has made enough of an impact to warrant this. He's 5-0, I believe, 6-1. It's some crazy number. But the other ones that
Actually, Jason Skeens was an MLB choice. He was not player elected. He was MLB.
MLB, okay. So it's surprising, but I do think that you have, along with Brian Reynolds, they're the two that I think would absolutely deserve it from Pittsburgh. The pleasant surprises for me were Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman, because they have been two of the best relievers this year that were not closers. Hoffman does close depending on the situation. Usually they'll bring in Alvarado for left-handed batters, Hoffman for right-handed batters. And the Hoffman story is so good. He was not in the league in 2020. He was actually helping Bryce Harper, and like 2020, 2021, he was helping Harper by pitching live batting practice as he worked his way back from injuries and things like that. And Harper went to Dombrowski, was like, hey, he's a good pitcher. You need to get him on this team. And Hoffman has taken advantage of that opportunity, and it's just a great story. And he's earned it. And since I just talked good about the Phillies, I will go with the surprise. I'm very surprised, although I'm happy that Trey Turner is an all-star. I personally did not have him as being the top, like what I would picture as the starting shortstop for an all-star team. Not just because he was injured for that time. It was like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, maybe even 8. But to me, his offensive numbers were there, absolutely. But his defensive numbers are not. So that's a surprise. But based off of the two that were in the final voting, which was Turner and Mookie Betts, I think Mookie still being injured allowed Trey to come through in that vote. Especially the night before the voting closed, Turner had 2 home runs in Wrigley. So it's a surprise.
I'm sure Joe's happy to hear you bring that up.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Joe, Livy Dunn, absolutely the reason for that selection to get Mr. Dunn in the All-Star game there. And I think those were my biggest surprises. Vlad Jr., I don't know that I would have had him as a starting first baseman. But for the most part, everything else looked really good to me.
Yeah, for me, looking at the NL shortstops, honestly, I kind of think CJ Abrams should have gotten the start over Turner. And, well, maybe not Mookie, but now that he getting hurt, it's Mookie all the way. But since Mookie's hurt and out to long after the All-Star break, I really, CJ Abrams, I was just checking his line here, Jason, 279, 350, 500. He's had a really good year. He's turning into a breakout star that the Nationals need as they keep pushing this youth movement forward. Or even Ellie De La Cruz, I mean, his average is a little lower than at 249, but 45 stolen bases already. I mean, he is just going nuts this year to go with 15 home runs, which ties for the lead of NL shortstops with Francisco Lindor also at 15. So shortstop's one that, yeah, I'm not really, I don't think either Turner or Mookie was the right guy there. Couple other quibbles I had. Clay Holmes, he's not having a bad season. I don't want to take anything away from that. I think Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell, or Andres Munoz all would have been better selections in the American League there. Hoffman and Strahm, I don't mind the picks. I wonder, should another starter have been given at least one of their spots? Hunter Green would be a choice to consider. We give Hunter Green some crap, but he is pitching pretty well this year. OPS plus of 124, and he's allowing less than 1 home run per 9 despite pitching primarily at the Great American Ballpark. There's a starter in my snubs list that I think, though, should go ahead of Green. I think Trevor McGill of the Brewers should have made it over Robert Suarez of San Diego. Christian Yelich, I think Brandon Nimmo should have gotten in over Yelich and on it and possibly, I also have Nimmo as a snub, and I'll explain that one in a second too. The only other question I had was maybe Smith should have been the starter over Contreras at catcher, but honestly, I think it's a fair coin toss between the two, and I'm okay with going with the fan choice on that one. They're both having great seasons, so let's do snubs. I really only have two. Jake Irving of the Nationals. In those last 9 starts, 5-2 with a 1.79 ERA. For the season, he's got a 2.80 ERA. He's 4th overall in quality starts. He's having a really good season for the Nationals. He should absolutely be on this roster right now. I hope he's the first choice to take Wheeler's spot, since he won't be pitching. And then Brandon Nimmo. Let's go with I'm gonna point out on one thing on a topic we'll talk about in just a second. Not all teams deserve to have a rep, and the fact that some teams are don't have enough good players to earn more than one rep. The fact that Pete Alonso was sent for the 2nd year in a row instead of Brandon Nimmo is insane. I know Alonso can smash home runs better than most. That's why you put him in the home run derby.
That's pretty much the only reason he was chosen to be an all-star. I know it's not a requirement, but they have really overall been kind of making sure that if you're in the derby, you're an all-star.
Yeah, it should. This is the 2nd year in a row. Brandon Nimmo should have been the New York Mets selection over Pete Alonso. And Nimmo's never going to say anything about it. He's too good of a teammate, but he got screwed really bad for the 2nd year in a row. Any big snubs for you?
I have a few, actually. So from the American League, the first one for me is Brent Rooker of the Athletics. He has been having a really solid year as the DH for that team. I understand having Miller as a rep, but I think the A's actually, as much as we rag on the A's and how bad they are, how bad the ownership is, and everything like that, Rooker is another bright spot on that team.
Yeah. The A's earned 2 reps this year. He should have been on the team. I'll agree.
And the Orioles only having, I think it's 3 reps is absolutely, or it's 2. But let me go back to the list there. I'll let you look at that because I have my notes up here. But it's absolutely criminal that they only have 2 to 3. The ones that come to my mind here were 3. Anthony Santander. He's been having a resurgent year. Craig Kimbrell, I rag on him a lot, but he has also had a resurgent year.
Joe's with us on that one too. Kimbrell is a better choice than Holmes.
And the last one, which I think is actually the most criminal here, is Jordan Westberg.
Yeah.
Westy has been insanely good for that team. So the Orioles should have those 3 in there as well. From the National League side of it, Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks, I think should be in there. And my hope is, I don't hope that Harper doesn't play, but if he doesn't, I'm hoping that Walker gets the nod to come in there. And then the other one is somebody who's actually been flying under the radar this year and having a sneaky good season, and that's Mason Wynn of the Cardinals.
Yeah, he has been really good.
So those I think would be my 6 snubs actually from that.
Okay, that's I think you and I have a pretty good snub list this year. Not too much argument, I think, either way. I think fair selections. All right, the Derby selection so far. Gunnar Henderson was the first to be announced. Pete Alonso, because I guess Pete Alonso has to be in the home run derby. I guess it's a requirement at this point. Alec Boehm, Alec Boehm does not belong in a home run derby ever, in my opinion. He's a good player. He's not a power hitter. I don't ever think of him as a slugger.
Yeah.
I saw Marcelo Ozuna had been added earlier today. Who was the other guy added today? I missed that one.
Bobby Witt Jr.
Bobby Witt. Yeah, that's another one. Bobby Witt's probably it's an interesting choice. He's not really a power guy.
And I feel like the Alec Bohm pick is more of the, hey, we're probably not going to have Bryce Harper, so let's go
Yeah,
elsewhere.
and absolutely no reason for Harper to do the home run derby coming off an injury. That would be insanity.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see it happen, I'm glad it's not.
And Texas is not that's not a great ballpark for lefties.
It's not a great ballpark for anybody.
No, it's not. It's not going to be like watching him fly out of Coors Field.
I cannot wait for 2026 when it's at the bank
Yeah,
in
that'll be
Philly.
sweet.
That's going to be in them.
Left-handed hitters are going to have a heyday with that short right field side. It's gonna be sweet. Let's. Can I just say I really hope it turns out to be mostly NL East players in for the Philly All-Star game too, because that'd be freaking sweet.
That would be awesome.
Because no group of hitters knows how to annihilate the walls of Spank Park better than the players that play in the NL East. All right, so we are up to 5 known participants. So the last 3 will hopefully be announced throughout the week because it starts next week. So we'll see who the last contestants are. The jerseys have been revealed. The AL has a cream-colored jersey with light red sleeves and a light blue ring at the bottom of the sleeve. The NL is black with light blue sleeves and a light red ring on the sleeves. Do you like either of these?
Not really. The National League one is superior to the American League one, but that's not really saying much.
Yeah. It's basically saying this pile of crap is slightly shinier than this pile of crap.
Yeah.
And it sucks that they aren't wearing the crappy jerseys during the home run derby and the regular jerseys during the game like they used to. They need to go back to that.
Yeah.
I will harp on that every year because it looked better.
Yeah. Yep, the derby should be where the specialty jerseys happen, and then players wear their regular team jerseys because you're representing your team.
Yeah,
you're not just representing the league; you're representing your own team. So why in the world do you not let them wear their team's jerseys? Like this way, I mean, like I would love to see, on the field at that game. 3 Phillies jerseys in that infield, yeah, I agree with you, man.
The look on the field does not need to be uniform. This is the one game of the year where you don't need a uniform. This isn't football where it is fast paced and they need to have the same colored jerseys to help the quarterbacks identify who the hell they're throwing the ball to, or the defenders to know who the hell they're tackling. And even then, they get to wear their own helmets. So it's not like the NFL takes the individuality out of the two-handed touch scrimmage known as the Pro Bowl with little defense. And, I ask this question every year. Should every team have a rep? I say no. You need to earn your way onto the team. There is no reason that every team should be given an automatic pick into the All-Star game. It's insane. Because there's players that should get in that can't get in because the spot has to be held for somebody that plays in a crappy team.
I don't know that I agree with that. And here's my thought process. Even on the worst of teams, you have a player that does stand out. You have a player that if you put them on another team, they can be a star on that other team. I mean, I'm thinking, even look at this year. Let's see, who are the lone representatives for some of these teams? You have, looks like Ketel Marte maybe on here. He's been one of the best second basemen of the season. And let's look at the terrible teams. Let's look at the worst teams in the league. The Oakland Athletics. Oakland Athletics, they had their closer, Mason Miller. He has been one of the best closers in the game this season. Let's go to the Tigers. Tariq Skubal. You're talking an AL Cy Young candidate.
Yeah.
If not the front runner. Tell you what, let's go to the NL side of here.
Let's look at the Rockies.
Who's the Rockies representative? Ryan McMahon.
McMahon.
he's been a solid player this year. I actually have him in fantasy league. I don't remember if it's ours or if it's in my paid one, but he has been a solid point getter for me. So I disagree that a team should not be guaranteed, because I think we need to look at the bad teams have a good player or two that the only reason they're not being looked at is because they're on a bad team.
Maybe. I've always hated the automatic bid, because usually there is somebody on another team who is better than the player who got the automatic bid at that position. Not always, but pretty often I feel like that. Like Pete Alonso. I do not think Pete Alonso should be in this game. I'm just looking here.
Is he the only Met?
Yes. He
okay.
is. And that's, again, why I'm mad that Brandon Nimmo didn't. If the Mets were only going to get one, it should have been Brandon Nimmo. It shouldn't have been.
Yeah. So that's not. But that's not saying that the Mets shouldn't have had a pick. That's saying that Mets should have had another person that was more deserving.
No, I'm not saying that the Mets shouldn't have had a pick, because I think Brandon Nimmo should have been picked regardless of playing for the Mets.
Right. But see, that's not what you were saying. You were saying that Alonso should have been picked, and we're talking about teams that.
No. I know
we're talking about okay.
Yeah. No. I know that. I think if we're going to allow all teams to have one pick, it should have been Nimmo. Nimmo also should have been picked, though. He should have been voted in, frankly. But Alonso, looking at OPS, Alonso only has the 5th best OPS in the National League among first basemen right now. He is behind Harper, Freddie, Christian Walker, and Michael Busch. Great. He's got 18 home runs. He's only hitting 240.
I'm highlighting one here from our buddy Matt Mal, saying that the obligation to have a rep from every team as opposed to just picking the most qualified is whack. Matt, Andrew is definitely on your side there, and I'm not sure how long you've been listening, bud, but I did actually go through. We went through our snubs, and I actually mentioned Tony, Kimbrel, and Westy as being snubs from the American League side of things, because those three should have absolutely been representing the Orioles in the game. Orioles only having 3 while they have basically the best record in the American League is absolutely criminal.
Yeah. Starters. I think American League, I got to go Lugo. I was back and forth on him and Skubal for a while, but I think I'm going to go Seth Lugo. His ERA leads the American League. He's got an 11-3 record. He's been pitching out of his mind. It might have been one of the best offseason signings made by any team when you look at what he has put out versus what he is being paid. 1.04 whip and a 218 average against. And even Corbin Burns, who is also having a great season. I think Lugo should get the nod over those two guys. But I think those are the top 3 choices at this point.
Those are definitely the top 3 choices. I also go back and forth between Lugo and Skubal. I mean, the numbers there kind of tell me it should be Lugo. But just because it's you and me, I'm going to say it should be Skubal.
Yeah, I honestly, 3, I'm not going to be upset. I mean, one guy's been the mainstay of my fantasy baseball team all year. So,
yeah.
I mean, hey, Burns was, I think, the first pitcher I picked this year in the draft, so it's paid off pretty well.
Can I lead off the starters for the National League?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ranger Suarez, baby.
I think Suarez is probably going to be picked. I've got a couple other guys that I think should be in consideration.
Let me guess: Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez. But anyway,
that's 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. But Ranger has been basically the best starter in the National League for the entire season. I think he's earned this one. And actually, if it wasn't Ranger, if he would be pitching, I would actually say Wheeler would be earning that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I'm just ignoring Wheeler for all of this because we know he's not
Yeah,
going to be playing.
absolutely. No, absolutely. But Ranger, I think, has dominated essentially the first half of the season, and I think that should lead to the reward of starting the All-Star game.
You're ignoring the last start where he gave up a 5 spot to Atlanta.
It's one start.
I know one start doesn't make or break a season.
Yep.
I think Ronaldo Lopez should be considered. He's not pitching deep into games, which is why he keeps hopping on and off the list for league leader of ERA. And it's because he's a reliever being converted back into a starter. The Braves have said all year they're probably not going to be pushing him deep into games most of the year. So I'm fine with him not being picked as the starter. Sale, 11-3, 271. 0.91 whip and a 199 average against with 127 strikeouts. He looks like vintage Sale so far this year. I'm going to break away from our gauntlet. One other guy you could also look at is Jake Irvin of Washington, because I do think he will get put on the team at some point as players are pulled off and replaced. The record's not great at 7-6, but he's got a 2.80 ERA. He's got a whip of 1. He's got an average against a 2.12. He gets outs, man, and he's getting it done for a surprisingly good Nationals team up to this point in the year. Definitely not where any of us were expecting them to be. So if they want to break away, although I truly think it's going to be between Suarez and Sale, and I think it's going to be Suarez, but I could see it going either way. Plus, again, the pitching matchups going into the day will make a lot of that decision for the managers as well. So yeah, it should be one of our top guys, though, no question. Yep. Not to the surprise of anybody. All right, let's rip the Band-Aid off and get this out of the way. So, fantasy baseball from last week. I got dropped by Joe 16-11 in a matchup that was pretty close most of the week, and then all of a sudden on the weekend I was down by like 9 and then crawled back to only lose by 5. So yay me.
Good job, Joe.
And then Ron finally found a victory after searching for one for weeks and weeks and weeks. Ron took Todd down 13-10. And Jason, you dropped a tough one to Tim, 14-11.
Yeah.
But after the standings at the end of the week, you are leading on virtue of the winning percentage of 523. This is how close we are right now, folks. And second is a tie with me and Tim at 520. I actually have the most wins in the league, but I also have more losses and fewer ties. So that
sucks.
It's whatever. It's week 14. Talk to me in week 30 when I'm pushing through the playoffs. And then behind the top 3, Joe is 8 out, Todd's 9 out, and Ron gained ground back. He has gone from 38 games back to 35. Not many major injuries in the fantasy realm this week. A hilarious injury that Joe says is not worthy of a fantasy notice, but I'm just going to mention it because it's frustrating and funny as hell. Cubs right-hander Colton Brewer decided to get pissed off when he got pulled after a poor performance and punched the dugout wall a couple times and broke his left hand. Dumbass. And Joe, it pissed me off. It pisses you off the same way it pissed me off when Huascar, did the same damn thing, punching the bench or the water cooler or whatever he did before he ended up getting Tommy John surgery later that year. Get control of yourself, man. Or take a bat and break it on something. Protect your hands. Don't be stupid.
I'm pretty sure Cole Hamels did that in the minor leagues, actually. For some reason, I remember that.
Yeah, I feel like I remember hearing about that too. I'll trust you on that one. It would not shock me. Young Cole Hamels had a very, very different mindset and mental stability than older Cole Hamels did. That's for sure. Well, let's be real. That never completely went away.
No.
He was always a bit wild and crazy.
He was a dick.
Yeah, straight up. Matt's got it right. Take a note from Big Poppy and destroy a dugout phone with your bat instead.
Exactly.
Even if they charge you for it and then give it back to you as a plaque later.
I'm pretty sure that I don't know if I mentioned this on here, but I know I've mentioned it previously. But Matt, I was actually at that game when Poppy did that, and it was absolutely epic. and it was one of the best Royals games I had ever been to.
Matt Ocker makes for better TV. Absolutely, bud. I would definitely rather watch a guy
Sure does.
just destroy a water cooler, destroy something else over just punching the wall because they're pissed off. Jason, we talked about the Matt was at the game too.
Love it. Love it.
That's great, guys. All right. So, Jason, we talked about the rule changes for the home run derby this year. What are your thoughts on the rule changes?
I dig it. I think it gets a little bit of the old with a little bit of the new. The way that they had been doing it, you don't get to see all of the home runs. You don't get to see the long mammoth moonshots. Like, I miss the days when you had Chris Berman going back, gone. You know, like I miss those days. But I also understood. I understand why they went away from that, because you want to see more home runs in the same amount of time. So how are you going to do that? You take away the outs, because players were just taking pitches until they got their meatball that they wanted to smack.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but I think this is a good way to get a balance of both.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one. I actually think I think having the pitch limit is going to make a huge difference, and I love the fact that the last 30 seconds are not just going to be basically a pitch machine set on 11 to throw as many pitches as possible to slip in, and the fact that the bonus time is now untimed, I think that's great. So even if you're way down, you're going to have that untimed period of time where you have just regular outs to try and catch up. It's a good change. I think it'll go well this year.
Yeah.
All right. First, well, no, I guess not. It's the second big, although this isn't really that big of a trade of the year. The Rays have said, hey, we are likely going to be selling. They have made their first trade. They sent right-hander Aaron Savali to the Brewers for infield prospect Gregory Berrios. Berrios was the Brewers' number 21 prospect. He is now Tampa's number 19. He's still a ways from the majors, currently at the A+ level right now. So this is one Tampa Bay is hoping to see something come out of it probably 2 to 3 years down the road. But, I think Tampa Bay is playing it smart. This is not a playoff team this year in Tampa. So, this is what, they are not a team that has ever been afraid to say, hey, this is not going to be our year. Let's kick some of these expiring contracts and, see what we can build for the future. And you know what? All in all, it works out pretty well for them. So, all right. So Braves Phillies, man, it was a good series. Honestly, the umpiring was terrible. I'm just going to say that right now. Throughout the entire series, I thought the home plate umpires sucked every night for both of us.
Yeah, I only really got to see the first one just because I was away and traveling for the other two, so I only saw the notifications on the phone. So I'll let you mention those two, but the game that I did see was the first one, which was the Phillies win 8-6, and that game, the score was closer than the game actually was. The Phils overall dominated that game. Turner had 2 home runs off of Max Fried. The Braves defense really let them down. Essentially, Riley had a really terrible error on a Johan Rojas dribbler, which Johan's speed helped them manufacture 3 runs in that inning because that error that Riley threw up the first baseline allowed 2 runs to score. Rojas went to second, and then Rojas had a steal attempt to third, and I don't remember who was catching that night, but they threw the ball into left field trying to get Rojas, and then he scampered home for another run, which ended up being a difference maker there. So
it was Darnell, not surprised.
Okay, so I mean the lone blemish for the Phillies that night was Alvarado just not finding it, and I believe it was it may have been the 8th inning or the 9th inning.
It was the 8th because Hoffman
Yeah.
came in for the save that
Hoffman
night.
came in for the save. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
3 runs given up in the 8th.
yeah. And that was on an Ozuna home run. So,
Mhm.
and Alvarado was having trouble throwing strikes. So my goal for this week for the Phils was to basically go 3-3. And they did that. Like, it's a road trip that is just when your team is beat up as bad as the Phillies, you're just hoping to tread water until your stars get back. And they've done that. Their stars are coming back this week or right after the All-Star break. So
It must be nice to actually get your stars back this season instead of next season.
right. But I mean, the Phillies especially going into the Atlanta series, knowing that it was in Atlanta, knowing the types of lineups the Phils were going to be throwing out there, I was like, you know what? Get one of the three. They just could not afford to be swept, because a 6-game lead is much different than an 8-game lead. At this point in the season, as far as momentum is concerned. So the Phils, they did they accomplished their goal. Would I have liked to take 2 out of 3 in Atlanta? Absolutely. But I also, being realistic, I figured one was probably going to be the best that they'd be able to do this week.
Yeah, so Max Fried, he either kills the Phillies or the Phillies kill him. There's not really a lot of middle ground when he is playing them, I've noticed. And that's from how many years have we been watching Fried pitch against the Phillies now?
Right.
The Nola game, I thought probably edged Nola, but it could have been a toss-up. It depended on which Max Fried was going to show up. I was shocked that the Braves did as well against Ranger Suarez as they did in that second game. Whoops, I pulled the wrong game up. I did not expect him to be getting pinged for homers the way he did. That's not usually him.
That was the one that I was thinking, like, that they would potentially win. Again, like the Wheeler, it was Wheeler and Fried, right? Or no, it was Nola Fried.
Nola Fried.
Nola Fried, because Wheeler goes tomorrow. So Nola Fried, that was the one that was like, this is probably 50-50. Depends on which Nola we get, which Fried we get. And it was
that's
pretty back and forth. It was
Nola's the same way too. I mean, he either kills Atlanta or Atlanta kills him.
Yeah. But the Ranger game was the one that I thought they would get, because that was what, Ranger versus
Schwellenbach.
So but I part of me is wondering, I don't know if I'm looking too much into this or not, but I'm wondering if Ranger is starting to get a little fatigued. He's going to be approaching the most innings he's pitched in a season. He's been throwing a lot of innings this season because he's been so dominant.
He's at 108 already. That is 4th or 5th among the NL right now.
Right. So part of me thinks he probably needs the All-Star break to just kind of get some rest.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't want that to be the excuse as to why they lost, but seeing some of the replays of things, like his stuff wasn't, especially over the last 2 starts, because I think it was his second straight start that he was like, but that other start that I remember seeing, like, his stuff didn't have all the movement, things like that. So I think the speed on his fastball was down a little bit. So I think he just needs to get a little rest for the second half.
I saw the Braves already announced Chris Sale's going to be getting an extra day off this week. Might not be a bad idea for the Phillies to do that with Ranger.
Yeah, and I also saw some rumors coming out that the Phils are anticipating going to a 6-man rotation starting in August. And most likely
sucks. You don't have a lot of off days in August this year.
They have 29 and 30 or 28 and 30 in August.
Fuck. That's bullshit.
Right, or 29 of 31 or something like that. So they're probably going to go to a 6-man rotation for that month, which they need to.
That's hell on your pitchers.
You don't need to worry about August or September. You need to worry about October and into November.
Yeah. So for me, in the 5-1 victory over Suarez, I was extremely impressed with Spencer Schwellenbach. He's had a rough go. He's a rookie. He does pretty well the first 2 times through, and it's the third time that starts to kill him. This time he got through 6 innings. Yes, he gave up 7 hits, but he scattered them. He only gave up 1 run, struck out 6. He didn't walk any. So showing very, very positive strides forward. I was so happy to see that outing for him. And yeah, I know it's not the best of the best the Phillies will run out there, but still, it's still major league quality hitting. And he shut the door. He did the job that he needed to. And then, to get a shutout on Sunday, I know Mercado was kind of pretty much a sacrificial goat. I don't think you were expecting to do anything at all in that game.
No.
And yeah, let's see. Stubbs was playing. Yeah, Stubbs, Rojas, me. Yeah, okay. I know. This was not the murderer's row. This was, we're going to rest a lot of guys. But Stott went 0 for 4. Turner went 0 for 3. The pitching did really well. I mean,
yeah.
Ronaldo Lopez, 6 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, great stuff. Yeah. And he got the 91 pitches there, which they had been slowly stretching out farther and farther. So it was good to see. It was a nice week.
Yeah, and I mean, and the other thing with the Phils right now with this week, I mean, they took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs, which they had to do. I know I was like, man, they'll probably only win 1. But the reason why it feels tough right now is because, I mean, you just mentioned their lineup. If you look at numbers 5 or 6 through 9, it's like a AAA roster there. So I will say one of the bright spots, aside from that was not involving game 1 of the Phil's Braves series, was Tyler Phillips, who got called up from the minors, made his major league debut out of the bullpen and struck out the side against the Braves. And he had some really filthy looking pitches. So I think you're going to see him potentially stick around because they did option Junior Marte to the minors, who was doing well, then got hurt and hasn't been doing as well since coming back. So hopefully that sticks pretty good there. But yeah.
And, the big thing for me, I'm finally starting to see Atlanta hit some damn home runs. They have not been scoring a lot of runs, and they've not been hitting home runs much this year. And it was good to see them do. And they were doing it against all of your pitching, not just the mop-up crew in Game 3.
Yeah.
It was throughout the series. So
yeah,
it's a good it's good momentum forward that Atlanta absolutely needed to have. And one other note, a snub that I knew never had a chance, but I wish would have been picked anyway out of the bullpen. Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse this year is 1-1 out of the bullpen, throwing 37 2/3 in only 28 games, the 1.67 ERA. I know there was literally no chance in hell he was ever going to be seriously considered for the All-Star game, but the last 2 years in his 39th and 40th year old seasons, he's got a 1.55 to 1.67 ERA. It's a pity that when you're not a closer, you get completely, or if you're not a closer or a setup man, you completely get overlooked. Just a pity.
Yeah.
I can't really call it a real snub because I knew there was no chance, but numbers like that, All right. So for Would You Rather, I just wanted to throw last week's at you quick because I asked ChatGPT to pick 2 baseball players, and it gave a nice debate last week, although Joe and I ended up on the same time. Prime Cal Ripken Jr. versus Prime Derek Jeter.
Iron Man, baby. Cal Ripken, like the Iron Horse, I mean, I have great respect for Derek Jeter and all that he accomplished. To me, they are very similar overall as far as the offense, as far as the defense. I would actually say I believe Cal was probably a little better offensively than Jeter was.
Mm-hmm. The numbers with that.
And then defense, I think they're fairly similar. Jeter may have a slight edge on that. But I
It
mean, the
dep-
longevity of Cal in that game, like,
the defense, it depends. Are you looking at Golden Gloves or are you looking at actual defensive metrics? Because Golden Gloves edge goes to Jeter, actual defensive metrics, it goes to Cal. Jeter
yeah,
did not have great range at shortstop. He didn't have a great arm. Cal Ripken had those things.
yeah.
So
So I would definitely go with Cal on that one.
yeah, it's I figured it'd be unanimous when it was all said and done. All right, an interesting one since it's just you and me this week. Prime time, Mike Schmidt versus Chipper Jones.
Do you really think I can take Larry?
You mean for the same reason I'm not taking Mike?
Um,
If you want, we can punt it to next week and let Joe break the tie. I mean, honestly, two amazing.
do you know who Joe's gonna pick?
Joe's going to pick Mike just to not side with me. I know.
Um,
Really though, two insanely great third basemen. Schmidt was definitely the better defender. Chipper was the better overall hitter. Schmidt had more power. Chipper could hit from both sides. They both won championships. Chipper didn't get. I don't think Chipper ever had a Gold Glove, but look at the third baseman playing defensively in the National League during his career. He never really had a chance to shine ahead of any of them, including Scott Rowland, of just to mention one. So yeah, we'll let Joe break the tie on it next week. But
so yeah, so just to give you some idea here,
did you pull
I
it up?
do. I have Mike's. I have Schmidt's. I'll let you take a look at Chipper's,
I'm pulling it
who
up.
Philly fans love to just heckle with just Larry.
The Mets did it more, and he killed the Mets.
So just for fun, let's just go individual for batting average, for like statistics
Yeah.
and awards and whatever. Batting average, Schmidt was at 267.
Chipper 303, and that was
Yeah.
300 plus on both sides.
Yeah, I knew he would be up there on that one. First of all, how many years did Chipper play? What was his career length?
Chipper played from 93 to 12, so from 21 to 40. So he had 2 years on Schmidt.
Okay.
Schmidt played 72 to 89.
Yeah, yes, I know Schmidt had 18 here. So Chipper got 20 in?
Yeah.
Okay. Hits 2,234.
27 26.
Okay. 548 home runs.
468.
1,595 RBI.
1623.
Okay. So some of those like 3 out of those 4 Chipper does take. Career highlights and awards, 12-time All-Star.
Yeah, 8 for Chipper.
1 World Series.
Same.
3-time MVP.
Once.
World Series MVP.
I did not get that. That was Tom Glavine.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
10.
You pitch the winning game. You go 8 innings with a shot. Yeah, you're not going to not get MVP.
Yeah.
Sorry.
10-time Gold Glove winner.
Again, none for Chipper. Schmidt had the better glove. No argument for me on that.
6-time Silver Slugger.
2-time.
8-time NL home run leader.
I did not go that deep. Chipper never. I don't think Chipper ever led the league in home runs. Again, not a home run based hitter. He led in RBIs more than a few times. I know that. But,
I'll say 4-time NL RBI leader.
Oh, geez, you're gonna make me pull that up. Give me a second. Sorry, I had the head-to-head so I could see that. Actually, he did not lead RBIs. He did have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He did have 9 of his 19 seasons. He had 100 plus.
Okay. So I mean, looking at this, I think there's a case to be made that they are very similar.
Yeah.
I think we're basically just kind of going apples to oranges, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's well, no, not apples to oranges. 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Yeah.
Where Chipper had more of the contact type of stats that he led, and then Schmidt took over when it came to the power and when it came to the defense. So, I mean, if you had either of these guys on your team, you were A-okay.
Yeah. Schmidt was healthier than Chipper. Chipper had a lot of years where he was hurt for at least part of the season.
Mhm.
You know, one thing that always struck me as amazing was 2008, when he
That was a
led the
good
league.
year.
When he led the league at 36 with a 364 average. He
Mhm.
was over 400 through the end of May, if I remember right, because he held on way longer than anybody was expecting over 400. I mean, nobody was expecting him to hold the whole way, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you said it the best. If you have either of these guys, you are extremely happy because third base is set for years to come.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, better glove for Schmidt, probably better overall, but outside of home run power, Chipper has the edge, I think, the rest of the way in the hitting.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a fun one. Chat GPT threw that one at me. I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
All right. So for Read the Room, Joe sent a couple things in the group chat. Number one, ESPN needs to stop showcasing only 10 different teams for Sunday Night Baseball. And he doesn't want it to be Yankees Red Sox every time it is a Yankees Red Sox series. I completely agree. I would love to see more of the crappy teams be on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, so my damn team isn't on there getting screwed over because they never play well on Sunday Night Baseball. Also,
That's why I was upset that the Phils and Braves weren't on instead.
Yeah, right. No, we had to jump immediately to the West Coast, so that's why that was. Atlanta probably said no. We are not going to do Sunday Night Baseball for that. Yeah, I'm just Sunday Night Baseball, just terrible broadcasting. It's not what it used to be.
Mm-mm.
Joe also mentioned, I'm going to throw this on to Read the Room. They need to change the All-Star game so that guys pitching Sunday do not automatically get excluded. He's thinking maybe move it back one more day. And I know teams like to have the extra days off going into the second half, but I don't really think it would make a tremendous difference to move the game back one extra day, even at the loss of the extra rest day on the other side. If it lets more of these guys that have earned the spot to pitch the chance to actually play in the All-Star game, I would be okay with that personally. Let me see here. Did he mention anything else? I think that's what Joe had. And I have one that's ticking me off. The schedule. And you alluded to it earlier with the Phillies playing all but a day or all but 2 days in August. Atlanta has 13 straight coming into the All-Star break and 17 straight going out of the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that nonsense? You couldn't find a day off anywhere. The schedule has been an issue all year. The number of teams that are playing long runs, it's getting bad. Teams should not be playing 17 straight games. And this is the second time this year Atlanta will have a run of 17 straight games.
Right.
And I'm not even counting this last run where they had to deal with playing 3 games in a 48-hour period because of multiple rain delay. You can't control the weather.
Right.
But you can also make better choices looking at the schedules coming up and the extended forecast to say, oh, maybe we should actually try and get this game in today so we don't have a doubleheader tomorrow that's going to be more impacted by the rain than the game today would be.
Right. I mean, and I love to bash the Braves whenever I get the chance, the way that you like to bash the Phillies whenever you get the chance.
Absolutely.
But to prove your point about how ridiculous it is to have teams play this many games in so few days and so few hours, the Braves lost 2 of those 3 games.
Yeah, they were gassed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nobody wants to see baseball like that. Right. Nobody wants to see I want to see everybody playing their best players as much as possible. And I want to see them at their best. I don't want to see them exhausted from ramming 3 games into a less than 48-hour period.
Right.
And one other thing, and I said it last week, and I'm going to say it this week, and I will say it every year until it changes. Philadelphia should be home for the 4th of July.
Absolutely. If not, I can understand, not wanting them to be home every year. Like, I can understand that to a point.
No. If Cincinnati is allowed to start every year at home, the Phillies can be home every year for the 4th of July. Or if they're away, put them in Washington.
Yeah. Like I was saying, like, even just like every other year.
It's been a couple of years now that the Phillies have been home on the 4th of July. It's ridiculous.
2021, I think. Something like that.
No, because I think you were in Atlanta for that one, because we shellacked you that game. Or was that in Philadelphia? No, you might be right. Hold on. I can look that up quick. But the Phillies should absolutely be home on the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good reason for them not to be.
Nope.
Let's see here.
Like, you're celebrating the birth of the nation, which took place in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. You know, like the marketing you can have for having that team be home, for a league that's about money and things like that. You know, market that team, put that game as a national broadcast.
Yeah. No, yep, 2021. You were home for the Padres and lost 11-1. Oh, Vinny Velo was on the mound. That's why.
Yep.
Sorry, not to bring that up, but
I would say 2021 was not great.
No.
That was a Joe Girardi collapse year again.
Yes. One of so many. But the fact that I can look at this last 10-year stretch and the Phillies have been home less than half of the time, it's bullshit. Put them home every year on the 4th of July. Or if the Phillies can't be home every year, then tell the Reds that 2020 is not going to be an aberration anymore. It's going to happen more often that they're not home to start the season every year.
Yep.
Sorry. All right, Jason, did you pull anybody for Down on the Farm this week?
I did. So down on the farm this week, our hitter is going to be Elijah Dunham from the Somerset Patriots, the AA affiliate for the Yankees. He went
former Atlantic League team.
Yeah, former Atlantic League team, former really good Atlantic League team.
Yeah.
10 for 25, which was a 400 average, 2 home runs, 4 doubles, 8 RBIs, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. And then our pitcher, I try to stay away from the Phillies organization just to try and not be as homery. But this week I did go with the Phillies farm pitcher, Gene Cabrera of the Jersey Shore Blue Claws, which is the high A affiliate of the Phils. The numbers don't sound great but until you look deeper at it. 1-0, 6 innings pitched, no hits, no earned runs. You know, that doesn't sound too it sounds normal.
Fine, but nothing crazy.
10 strikeouts in that start. So that means he only had 8 non-strikeout outs. So he had more strikeouts than he had balls in play for outs.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So
just a note, Somerset still to this day holds the record for most Atlantic League titles at 6.
I was going to say they were like 6 or 7 from what I remember.
Yep.
Yeah. Stormers are at 4. York is at 3 or 4, I think.
Let me see here.
Long Island has a few too.
All right, let's see here. I forgot Atlantic City had a team way back when.
Yeah, the Atlantic City Surf.
Yeah. Bridgeport had 1. Nashua had 1. Okay. York is at 3.
Go Stormers.
Yep, York is at 3. And the way they're playing, they're going to be at 4 at the end of this year. Because it's not going to be Lancaster standing in their way this year. They are doing absolutely terrible against York this year. All right, City Connect. And Jason, I know you're not ready this week, so we'll punt that next week. Jason will reveal his rankings next week, and we'll do a little compare and contrast. I recorded where Joe and I had all of them, so we'll be able to see where we were at. And I will say this. You're going to be surprised where you put some teams that you didn't like, because there were so many more that you disliked more in hindsight.
I started thinking about that this afternoon or this evening, and I was like, this is just like who sucks the least.
Basically. Yeah. Yeah, I will say this: Wrigleyville was higher than either Joe or I expected to put them. I won't go any further than that, but
Okay.
I will say that. A couple milestones last week. Joey Estes, former Braves top prospect that was sent over in, I believe, the Olsen trade. He had his first career Maddox with the club. Congratulations to Joey. Aaron Nola had his 100th career win. The Pirates set a team record for 7 home runs in one game and ran out of fireworks. And actually had to put a message up on the scoreboard apologizing for the fact that they did not have enough fireworks because they had never hit that many home runs in a game. That's
what makes it even better was it was against the Mets.
Oh, what a pity. Considering the Mets got away with some really favorable umpiring in that series, they should just shut up and accept it. And Chris Sale became the 22nd pitcher in MLB history to defeat all 30 teams. That takes a long time pitching to do that. Holy crap.
Sure does.
All right, Joe's food for thought question of the week. This was a really good one. What is one or two things your team's organization has a competitive edge on the rest of the league with? Some examples he gave that you could look at: player development or scouting, player acquisition, pitching development, fan experience, among other things. Well, you think I'm going to pull up what Joe said about the Cubbies. Sorry, we had a lot more chat today than we normally have on a Monday, so I have to go back farther. He thinks that the Cubs are one of the best when it comes to pitching development, as well as undervalued signings that, and he put in quotes, sometimes produce results. I mean, Imananga.
Hector Neris.
Yeah, well.
Sorry, Joe.
That's a low blow. Although, to be fair, I think Hector Neris has more than earned the wrath of Phillies fans everywhere, especially when he found success at other places. So,
well, the other places he wasn't closing.
Exactly.
And the Phils realized that just a little too late because he did great outside of closing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Some people just aren't meant to be closers.
Yeah.
It happens. Luke Jackson, when Atlanta had to force him to close, he was not a good closer. He was a great setup man when they got real closers, but boy, he was rough. So, what do you think? What do you think, Jason? What are you thinking that the Phillies have a competitive edge over everybody else?
There are two things.
Dog nights.
No, it's not. There are two things that came to mind. The one that came to my mind immediately, which I kind of crack up about, mascot, man. The Philly Fanatic. The Philly Fanatic is the best mascot in baseball. Philadelphia has the top 2 mascots in all of sports between the Fanatic and Gritty.
I want to see a boxing match between the Fanatic and Gritty. Can we please make that happen?
I want to see like an AI generated version of like if they were to have a love child, what that would look like. Like a green version of Gritty with a snout or something, or the Fanatic with googly eyes.
Yeah.
Man,
I'm
nightmares.
I'm gonna have to do that later.
But then from a more baseball business type of thing, I'm going to say, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. I'm going to say like recruiting the free agents. Philly had been known for their homegrown players from the 2005-2006 season through 2011 and 12. And because Ruben Amaro basically sold the farm and the future for the likes of Halladay and Lee and Oswalt, the Phils had to get creative while they rebuild their farm. And they have been very good at getting top free agents to come over. And and they're also not coming over because they're throwing the most money at them either. Harper turned down the Giants, which had a bigger offer. Turner turned down I forget who it was. It may have been the Dodgers or the Yankees. Real Muto turned down. Yeah, Real Muto turned down teams to come back. Aaron Nola turned down the Braves.
More money in Atlanta, but more years in Philadelphia. Given where he's at in his career, I understand staying.
Yeah. So the Phils have done a really good job of bringing in the key top and good free agents.
Yeah. No argument there. I think one of the biggest edges Atlanta has is what's the best way to, it sounds cliche to say, but I'm going to say it because I can't think of a better way to say it. Clubhouse culture. What Atlanta has built there through mostly homegrown talent, because Atlanta, that's become a huge edge Atlanta's had over the last 5-10 years, is getting away from trying to bring in every high valued free agent, getting away from the Frank Wren years and going back to what they used to do really well, which is develop players. And you'll notice most of the roster is players that Atlanta has developed and brought up, both pitching and hitting. So player development's a big edge. And that clubhouse culture, a lot of players have said, I would love to go play for Atlanta, but either they don't have a spot open that I can play because we have so many players locked up for long-term deals, or I'm in it for the money because they know Atlanta is never going to be the largest offer available in free agency. They could go deeper. And, the nice thing is, since the World Series win in 21, it's basically forced Liberty Media to realize, we need to open the books more and allow them to, have that extra budget money to bring in a big player or two when they need it. Because
there is one team that I think, the Braves have done a great job with player development. I think more of an edge for the Braves is keeping their homegrown players. Like when they've made it up to the bigs, they have locked them down long term. Thinking of the the Acuñas, the Rileys, the Albies.
Ozzy is way below what market value is for second baseman. But remember two things with these deals. Atlanta's taking on a significant amount of risk as well because the player could get hurt a lot. Baseball contracts are fully guaranteed. So the player's going to get the money whether they are playing or not. Mike Hampton, asshole.
David Robertson.
Yeah. You can't complete. I'm sorry. We had a David Robertson love fest last week because you weren't on. It was kind of nice.
That's fine. But I will say, that's where I give the Braves a little bit of an edge too. If we're talking player development, there's one team that immediately comes to mind as truly having the edge, and that's the Orioles.
Yeah, Baltimore right now. Nobody's better.
Their whole team is essentially homegrown, and they're so deep. They have players already waiting in the wings. The Orioles farm system is easily the best in the bigs.
Yeah, it is sick how deep that system is right now. Absolutely sick. So I think those were all good thoughts. Back to the Atlanta contracts. Remember, they're also buying out arbitration years. So that's why they're saying you're not going to get arbitration, but we will give you extra years with a guaranteed and again, it's risk reward with injuries. So
Phil just did that with Christopher Sanchez, their starting pitcher.
Yeah, I thought it was a great deal for both. Slightly team friendly, but really it was a fair deal on both sides.
Agreed.
All right, let's move it into the hot list. Let me pull Joe's stuff up here. Joe only had a Moneyball this week. Okay, that's fine. Joe, Jason, who's your hot hitter of the week?
My hot hitter this week is Christian Walker of the D-backs. 407, 467, 1,000, 1.467 slash line with 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, and a lot of that came against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium.
What a pity.
In 6 games there, he has 7 home runs this season. The dude is just killing it at Dodger Stadium. To the point that I wouldn't be surprised if, Dodgers at some point. I know they have Freddie in there. Like, can we get him over to our team somehow, some way? But
yeah, walkers. Wow.
yeah.
I'm going to continue my trend of trying to go with the lesser known guys that I've been trying to do. I feel like I've done a decent job with. I've made a couple bigger or homer picks throughout the year, but I think by and large I've done a good job this year. Let's go with one of our snubs we were talking about, Brent Rooker of Oakland. 500, 560, 950, a 1.510 OPS in 20 at bats. Kid had 10 hits, 3 home runs, scored 6 runs, had 7 RBIs, stole 2 bases, walked 3, struck out 3. Not bad. Joe's Moneyball hitter this week. Jose Miranda from the Twins, 7 runs, 14 hits, 4 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. The slash line was 700, 727, 1.050, 1.777. That's video game numbers.
That's insane.
That's absolutely sick.
That's absolutely insane.
His alter, he actually had 2 this week, so we'll call this his other hot hitter, Angel Martinez of the Guardians. Slash line 444, 706, 670, 667, a 1.373, 4 runs, 4 hits, 8 walks, 2 doubles, and only 1 strikeout. That's getting on base.
Yeah.
Damn good job. All right. Who is your hot pitcher of the week, Jason?
I didn't see anybody that really stood out. I wasn't able to pay too much attention to it this week with everything. So okay. I'm going to defer to you on this one.
All right. I'll take, because Joe did not send a pitcher. All right. I'll make 3 picks. Number 1, we're going to go Nathan Eovaldi out of Texas. 2 starts, 2-0, 14 innings, 11 strikeouts, 1.29 ERA, a .36 WHIP, 2 earned runs, 5 hits, no walks.
Nice.
Only 1 home run allowed. Cutter Crawford, a guy I've been really excited to see. I think I actually just picked him up in fantasy too. He also went 2-0 this week in his 2 starts, 13 innings, 11 strikeouts as well. A very nice .69 ERA, a .54 WHIP, 1 earned run, 7 hits again, no walks. And continuing this train of love for the American League pitching this week, because the American League pitchers just killed it. Tariq Skubal. He went 1-0 in 2 starts, 13 innings, 20 strikeouts. A .277 ERA, a .62 WHIP, 4 earned runs, 7 hits, a walk, 1 home run allowed.
Okay.
Not bad. Adulting reliever of the week, Craig Kimbrell, 4 out of 4 in save opportunities, 4 innings, 1 hit, 2 hit by pitch, 8 strikeouts. God, that's like vintage Kimbrell.
Sure is.
0.25 WHIP, .077 batting average against.
Where was this last couple years, Craig?
I got to see most of those years when he was coming up with Atlanta. Oh, those were good years, man. Those were really good years. All right, pulling up the standings here. I'm not going to put Atlanta in as my hot team of the week because they did drop 2 out of 3 to the Giants. As good as the end of the week was, the beginning of the week was a little choppy. Yeah. So I'm not going to put either of our teams in for this week. I am going to.
Yep.
Since Joe's not on, I feel like I'm okay to say the Cardinals this week.
Cardinals were definitely on there for me.
7-3 in the last 10 too. And also
they have climbed. They are only 4.5 back now from the Brewers.
And here's the thing, though: are they going to get? If they're going to make a run, they need to go get some pitching and they need to get some bats because they've only scored 369 runs, but they've allowed 402.
They're a negative 33 run differential right now.
Nah, that ain't going to get it done.
No.
Let's see here. Who else was I in the process of? Oh, Baltimore. Baltimore continues to impress me all season. I'm not surprised, especially given the Yankees' recent tailspin where they can't win a game if it's given to them. Baltimore's back to 3 games in the lead for the division. I think I also would like to shout out to the Minnesota Twins. Also, they're in a nice little run right now, 7-3 in the last 10, also on a 2-game streak. And the Tigers have also won 4 straight. So, we're getting to that time of the year where you're not seeing nearly as many long winning streaks right now. So, anybody else for you?
Yeah, teams are getting tired. They need that break coming up here to kind of get refreshed for the second half.
Yeah.
There's a team here that did not see them doing this well, and they will. I'm annoyed because I was hoping that they would be sellers at the deadline, but the Boston Red Sox,
Yeah.
that like they're 6-4 in their last 10, but they have started playing really good ball lately. I was hoping that maybe like Kenley Jansen would become available, Tyler O'Neill, but with how they've been playing, the Red Sox are probably going to be buyers at the deadline.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then there was another team here. I hate to say this, but the Astros.
Yeah. Yeah, after one of the worst starts they have ever had, they are only 2 games behind the Mariners. And the Mariners, they need bats in the worst kind of way. I've been griping about
Julio has just fallen off the face of the earth this year.
Yeah. He's at like 242, isn't he? He's way down. Mm-hmm. But like the Mariners have amazing pitching. And their pitching can't get a freaking run their way. They only have a +4 run differential, but they've only allowed 346 runs. To put that in perspective, that's only a little bit worse than us. You guys have allowed 333. We have allowed 320.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. And I know I've been griping about my offense all year because it still is sputtering in second gear most of the time, but the Mariners have only scored 350 runs.
Yeah.
The Phillies have scored 440. The Phillies have almost scored 100 more runs than the Mariners have. Yeah. They need to get some bats. This is not a team that should be selling or sitting put. This is a team that needs to be getting bats wherever they can get them because there are so many holes in that lineup that need to be addressed. All right, let's look at the week ahead. My sheet is already off because sales starts getting skipped to give them a day. So tonight is Elder versus Diaz. Elder was recalled from AAA to make the start. And then Morton versus Galen tomorrow, Fried versus Saccone, and then Schwellenbach versus Fat. And then 3 at the Padres, Lopez versus Vasquez, Sale versus Waldron, Morton versus Cease. I really hope Sale pitching Saturday means he will still be okay to pitch in the All-Star game. I think they'll be okay if they keep it just to an inning.
Yeah.
For the Cubbies.
That would be like a bullpen day or something like that.
Exactly. For the Cubbies, 3 at the Orioles this week. Imanaga versus Kremer, Tyone versus Burns, Steele versus Suarez. 4 at the Cardinals, Hendricks versus Lynn, Wisniewski versus Gibson, TBD versus Mikolas, Tyone versus Palente. 2 wins, maybe.
This is going to be the Cubby season this week. They're either going to show that they can be the team that we predicted they could be, or they're going to be the team that's, you know what, Council should be a one and done manager.
I don't know about that. I don't think anybody should be a one and done manager unless it's truly a rock bottom finish. I think everybody should get at least 2 years.
Yeah.
But he's not helping himself right now. And he needs to start getting into people's faces. And like the mistakes in the base paths, I read a stat last week that the Cubs had caused more outs on base paths than anybody else this season. And based on the limited clips that I see, plus the Joe Raging clips that he sends to the group chat, it's bad. Mm-hmm. And it's dumb mental errors.
That culture is not good. That team is better than they are, and they are severely underachieving right now. So if they have a bad week this week, I mean they're already done, I think, but they are absolutely finished for sure.
The Cubs should not be behind the Reds, and they should not be behind the Pirates. This team has more talent than that, and they are only a game they're a game behind the Reds. They're 2.5 behind the Pirates. It's bad. It's really bad. Yeah, it's rough. And then for the Phillies this week, you guys are home to end out the break. 3 versus the Dodgers, Wheeler versus Miller, Sanchez versus Stone, Nola versus Knack. 3 versus the A's, Suarez versus Medina, Mercado versus Spence, and Wheeler versus Estes, which again, as we mentioned, will automatically preclude Wheeler from pitching the All-Star break. After the Orioles are done likely kicking the Cubbies' asses this week, they end the first half of the year at home versus the Yankees. Povich versus Cole, Rodriguez versus Gill, and Kremer versus Rodon. So the Orioles, this is a good week for them because they should handedly thump the Cubs. Sorry, Joe, but they should be looking at a sweep. Although realistically, you say take 2 out of 3, be happy, but they should be looking at a sweep. And then with another chance to knock the Yankees from 3 out to start the week, potentially down to 5 to 6 games out, and to just shove any momentum the Yankees try to rebuild right back down. This is a big one for the Orioles this week.
Yeah, and just because I'm curious, I wanted to see who do the Yankees have to start the week. They have the Rays.
Yes, the Yankees could pick up some momentum going into the series.
They're in Tampa, so that would have the potential there, depending. Yeah, so they're at Tampa before going to Baltimore.
So, yeah, this is a good week for the O's.
Yeah, and for the Phils this week, a lot of this week is going to hinge on if they get Schwarber and Harper back. Mm-hmm. They should either way take 2 out of 3 from the Athletics.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Athletics surprise you. I would not be shocked if they managed to get they shouldn't because they're on the road in Philadelphia. But just because the way that team has played this year, it would not surprise me if they slip an extra game.
Sure. And a lot of it, again, I think comes down to read those matchups again.
Suarez versus Medina, Mercado versus Spence, Wheeler versus Estes. I'll be honest, I don't know their rotation well enough to know where they are in the rotation.
I'm hoping that you get a bounce back from Ranger and that Wheeler is Wheeler. And then to start this week, I'll be at the game tomorrow. It's part of our plan is tomorrow's game, and I'm taking my dad being a Dodgers fan. So get our annual father-son Dodgers Phillies game going. So I'm pumped.
I'll back your dad this time. Go Dodgers.
That's fair. I'm pumped about that matchup for tomorrow with Wheeler and Miller.
Yeah, that's going to be the best matchup of the series, I think.
Yes, but the Phils have a chance. I feel like they can take 2 out of 3. Again, a lot of it's going to depend on if they get Schwarber and Harper back for it.
Yeah.
If Schwarber and Harper are back, I would really hope that they just have a good week. Go 4-2. I'd even accept a 3-3 week again.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to expect a lot of guys coming back from injury in that first week or so. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week to see what happens.
Yeah. And, again, to the Dodgers have been the Dodgers. They started a little slow and they have rolled right back into normal. I mean, they're at a plus 104 run differential. They're playing very well both home. They're playing really well away. They're playing really well against the 500 plus teams. They're just getting it done. So it'll be a good one to watch.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Jason?
I don't think so. It's get this final week in and get a break for the teams. Get to that All-Star break, and
yeah,
I think we can do our mid-season awards, and
all the teams need a break at this point.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where we stand as far as our divisional predictions go. When we do like a recap.
Not as far off as we might have guessed. I'm going to have to pull it up, but I feel like we were closer than we would have expected on some of them.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think what we'll need to do here coming up, since we have the break, is do an episode just like a mid-season awards. See where we are on our predictions.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I could tell you my long shot of Acuna getting another MVP award is dead in the water, along with his knee. So,
yeah.
You got to laugh at it. That's baseball. All right, guys. Audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. You can follow us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. Our Twitter page is at DDAB_podcast. All four of us are on there. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at JoltandJoe35. Ron is at Dipner Ron. We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the fantastic Baron Barbershop over in Mannheim. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night, and we will see you at the end of the first half.